My girlfriend left when I got cancer. My male best friend has been here every single day for 2 years, and I think I'm in love with him. His name is James. I met him on a playground when I was 6 years old. I was sitting alone under a tree reading a book about space, and he walked up and asked me which planet I thought would be the coolest to visit. We talked for the rest of recess, and when the bell rang, he introduced me to his friends as his new friend. That was it. From that moment on, we were inseparable. Our families joked about us getting married before we even understood what that meant. I went on vacations with his family, stayed over at his house constantly, got in trouble for talking during class together every single day. When we got to high school and everyone started dating, he asked me to the first dance and I said yes. We just became boyfriend and girlfriend by default. Nothing really changed except there was more hand-holding and our parents got stricter about sleepovers. But kissing was always hard for me. I did not understand why. He never pushed me on it. Not once. The 2 times we tried, he could tell immediately that I was uncomfortable and he would just mess up my hair and say enough of that, let us watch a movie instead. I thought one day it would click. It did not. Around 15, I started to realize the problem. I was not attracted to men. This was terrifying because I grew up in a small conservative Christian town where this was not acceptable. I went to his house shaking. He had done what he always did, made my favorite snacks and set up my favorite video game. He opened the door and hugged me and we sat down. He looked at me for a second and put his hand on mine and asked what was wrong. I tried to tell him. I got halfway through the sentence, struggling to actually say the words, and he just interrupted me. You are gay. Yes, I know. Is there anything else? Then he gave me that goofy smile I have always loved. I asked if he was mad and he laughed and told me he loved me the way I was, and this was the way I was. I started crying and jumped into his arms. We stayed best friends. We never had a breakup talk, but we started seeing other people. We hung out almost every day until graduation when he left for a big college far away. The night before he left, he picked me up and we drove around town hitting all our favorite spots until 3 in the morning. I took his hand during the drive home and fell asleep on his shoulder. He promised to stay in touch. He did. He called me every week to check on me. During his junior year, my parents found out I was gay. They did not take it well and kicked me out to save me. I called James. He talked to me for an hour and then got his mom to drive up and bring me to stay in his old room. Then he flew home the next day just to cheer me up. We drove around in circles singing like idiots and went on junk food runs at 2 in the morning until I felt like myself again. I found out later that he had gone to confront my parents. He told them they should be ashamed of themselves, and if they were willing to lose their daughter over this, they were unfit parents. My parents worship him, so it worked. Years went by. He got married. I got a long-term girlfriend. We stayed close. We saw each other less, but it was still great every time and we talked constantly. Then his wife divorced him. I never liked her. I think she used him for a green card and he was too kind to notice. He moved back home and I saw him more again. He was crushed, but we got through it together. Then I got the diagnosis. Cancer at 27. Decent survival odds, but I had to start treatment immediately. At first, everyone showed up. Visitors every day. Friends, family, co-workers, everyone. But as weeks turned to months, it stopped. People came once a week, then once a month, then not at all. When things looked bad around the 8th month mark, my girlfriend broke up with me. She said she loved me but could not handle watching this. Almost 2 years in now, and there are only 5 people still here. My mom, my dad, my sister, my best friend Amanda, and James. James is here every single day, every day, for hours. He has maybe missed 20 days in 2 years because of work travel, and even then he calls me. He comes in and asks how his Amumu is doing, and he listens. He brings my favorite snacks when I can have them, board games we used to play, old video games on a handheld so we can play together. He sings to me and shows me pictures of places he has been that I would like, and talks about taking me there when I am better. He sits and holds my hand in silence, so I will not be alone until the doctors tell him visiting hours are over. I wake up alone in my hospital room. The morning light comes through the blinds and makes stripes across the white sheets. My first thought is not about the pain in my chest or the IV in my arm. It is about James. I want him here right now, not the way I have wanted him here every day for 2 years as my best friend. This is different. This is the kind of wanting that makes my stomach flip and my hands shake. I have never wanted a man like this. Not when I dated James in high school before I understood myself. Not ever. The feeling scares me so much I almost text him, but I grab my phone and pull up Amanda's contact instead. Can you come by today? I need to talk. I hit send before I can second guess it. She responds in under a minute. Be there at lunch. You okay? I type back that I am fine and set my phone down and stare at the ceiling. The breakfast cart rattles by in the hallway. A nurse comes in to check my vitals and asks how I slept, and I lie and say great. She adjusts my IV and leaves. I count the tiles on the ceiling. 42. I have counted them 100 times. The morning drags. I try to read, but the words blur together. I try to watch something on my phone, but nothing holds my attention. All I can think about is how James held my hand last night until visiting hours ended. How his thumb rubbed small circles on my wrist. How he smiled at me when he said goodnight. How I wanted to pull him back when he walked out the door. Amanda shows up right when the lunch trays arrive. She pushes the tray table aside and sits on the edge of my bed and takes my hand. She does not ask what is wrong. She just waits. I open my mouth and nothing comes out at first. Then it all spills. I tell her I think I am in love with James. Not friend love, real love, romantic love, the kind that makes me want to kiss him and hold him and wake up next to him every morning. I tell her I do not understand how this happened because I am gay, and I have always been gay, and this does not make sense. My voice cracks halfway through and Amanda squeezes my hand tighter. She lets me finish without interrupting. When I finally stop talking, she looks at me for a long moment. Her eyes are kind. She asks me one question. Do you think maybe you have always loved him, but the labels got in the way of seeing it clearly? The question hits me like cold water. I open my mouth to argue, but nothing comes out. She keeps going. She says she has watched us together since we were kids, and we have always loved each other in a way that went beyond friendship. She says maybe I needed the label of lesbian to understand myself, and that was real and important. But maybe James is something different, something that does not fit in the boxes. I start crying. Not sad crying, confused crying, overwhelmed crying. Amanda pulls me into a hug and lets me sob into her shoulder. That afternoon, I am still thinking about what Amanda said when someone knocks. I expect James, but it is Dr. or Childress. She has a tablet in her hands and a careful expression on her face. She sits in the chair by my bed and pulls up my latest scans. She starts talking about tumor markers and cell counts, and I try to follow, but my brain feels fuzzy. Then she says something that makes everything stop. The tumors are shrinking faster than expected. If this continues, I might be looking at remission within 2 to 3 months. She smiles. She says this is excellent news, the best news we could hope for. I should feel happy. I should feel relieved. I should feel like celebrating. Instead, I panic. Remission means leaving this room. It means going back to a real life with a job and an apartment and a future. It means James will not visit me every single day anymore because I will not need him to. It means I have to figure out what we are to each other outside of this space where everything is simple because we are just fighting to keep me alive. Doctor, Childress asks if I am okay. I nod and force a smile and tell her this is amazing. She pats my hand and says she will check on me tomorrow and leaves. I sit alone with the news. The good news that feels like the floor dropping out from under me. James shows up that evening with a canvas bag full of stuff. He pulls out my favorite snacks. The good chocolate that costs too much. Sour gummy worms. Those weird cheese crackers I like. Then he pulls out a new puzzle. 1,000 pieces. A photo of the Northern Lights. He says he thought we could work on it together over the next few visits. He sets everything up on the table by my bed with such care. He arranges the snacks in a little row. He opens the puzzle box and dumps the pieces out and starts sorting edges from middle pieces. I watch him and my chest physically aches. Not cancer pain. Something else. Something that feels like my heart is too big for my ribcage. He looks up and catches me staring. He asks if I am okay. Then his face gets serious. He asks if the doctor said something bad today. I should tell him the truth. I should tell him the tumors are shrinking, and I might be in remission soon. I should tell him I am terrified of what happens when I leave here. Instead, I lie. I tell him no, everything is fine. The doctor just did routine checks. He studies my face like he is trying to figure out if I am telling the truth. Then he nods and goes back to sorting puzzle pieces. We work in silence for a while. His shoulder brushes mine when he reaches for a piece. Every touch feels electric. I spend the next 3 days thinking. James visits every day like always, but I am somewhere else in my head. I think about every relationship I have had with women. My first girlfriend in college who taught me what it meant to be wanted. The woman I dated for 2 years who made me laugh until I cried. My ex who left when the cancer got bad. I loved them. All of them. Those feelings were real. I was not lying to myself. I was not faking it. I am attracted to women. But none of them ever made me feel like this. None of them made my heart race when they walked in a room. None of them made me want to memorize every detail of their face. None of them made me feel safe and terrified at the same time. I think about James. How he holds my hand. How he talks about taking me to see the Northern Lights when I get better. How he looks at me sometimes like I am the most important thing in the world. I think about what Amanda said. Maybe I have always loved him, but I needed to understand myself first. Maybe this is not about being gay or straight or anything else. Maybe this is just about James. 4 days after Dr. Childress gave me the good news, James shows up for his evening visit. We are working on the puzzle. He has been coming every day, and we are maybe a quarter done. He mentions casually that his coworker has been asking him to go out for drinks. He says it while he is fitting a corner piece into place. He does not look at me when he says it. My stomach drops. I realize immediately what he means. A date. His coworker wants to take him on a date. Jealousy hits me so hard I almost gasp. Sharp and hot and completely unexpected. I hear myself asking if he is interested before I can stop the words. My voice comes out weird. Too high. Too tight. James looks up from the puzzle. He studies my face. I can feel my cheeks burning. James looks at me for a long moment. His expression is hard to read. Finally, he says he does not know. He says honestly he has not thought about dating anyone in 2 years. All his energy has been focused on making sure I am okay. The way he says it makes something twist in my chest. There is something in his voice. Something that sounds like more than friendship. Something that sounds like maybe he is saying what I have been too scared to say. But I am too afraid to push. Too afraid to ask what he means. Too afraid of the answer. So I just nod and go back to the puzzle. We work in silence for another hour. When visiting hours end, he squeezes my hand before he leaves. I squeeze back. Neither of us says anything. My mom visits the next day. She brings homemade cookies and sits in the chair by my bed and asks how I am feeling. We talk about normal things for a while. The weather, my sister's new job, Dad's obsession with fixing the garage door. Then I hear myself asking how she knew she loved my dad, what it felt like when she was sure. Mom stops mid-sentence. She looks at me with this soft expression. She is quiet for a minute. Then she tells me love is not about checking boxes or fitting into categories. It is about finding someone who sees all of you and chooses to stay. She reaches over and squeezes my hand. Her eyes are knowing, like she understands exactly why I am asking. Like she has been waiting for me to figure it out. She does not push. She just sits with me. When she leaves an hour later, she kisses my forehead and tells me to trust myself. That night, I lie awake. The hospital is quiet except for the machines beeping and footsteps in the hallway. I think about what my mom said. I think about James. How he has seen me at my absolute worst. Sick and throwing up and losing my hair and crying in the middle of the night. How he has never once looked at me like I am broken. How he shows up every single day without fail. How he holds my hand and makes me laugh and talks about our future like it is a certainty. Then I think about his coworker. I picture someone taking James out for drinks, making him laugh, touching his arm, kissing him goodnight. The thought makes me want to scream, makes me want to throw something. I have no right to feel this way. James is not mine. We are not together. He can date whoever he wants. But the jealousy is real and fierce and I cannot make it go away. I think about losing him to someone else. About him falling in love with someone who is not sick and broken and confused. The thought is unbearable. I stare at the ceiling until morning. The next afternoon, James shows up with coffee and pastries. He sets them on my table and settles into his chair. We work on the puzzle for a while without talking much. Then out of nowhere, he brings up high school. He laughs about how awkward we were trying to be a couple, how we held hands in the hallways and went to dances, but never really knew what we were doing. He says we were really just best friends playing pretend. I laugh too because it is true. But then he gets quiet. His smile fades. He stares at the puzzle pieces in his hands. He says sometimes he wonders what would have happened if I had not realized I was gay. If we would have figured out how to make it work. His voice is soft, vulnerable, like he is admitting something he has kept inside for years. My heart starts racing. I look at him and he looks back. The air between us feels charged. I take a breath. I say maybe we still could. The words hang there. James's eyes widen slightly. He opens his mouth like he is going to say something. Then someone knocks on the door and a nurse comes in to check my vitals and the moment breaks. But something has shifted. We both feel it. 2 days after our moment in the hospital room, I wake up in the middle of the night feeling like I am on fire. My body is shaking and I cannot stop sweating through my hospital gown. I reach for the call button, but my hand is trembling so hard I knock it off the bed. A nurse doing rounds sees my light on and comes in, and I watch her face change when she takes one look at me. She calls for help, and suddenly there are 3 nurses in my room hooking me up to monitors and taking my temperature and starting new IVs. One of them tells me my fever is dangerously high and they need to run tests immediately. They wheel me down for scans and blood work, and I am too weak and disoriented to be scared. When they bring me back to my room, the sun is coming up and I have so many tubes and wires attached to me that I look like something from a science fiction movie. Doctor. Childress comes in around 7 and sits down next to my bed with a serious expression. She explains that I have developed an infection, and we need to get it under control immediately, or it could become life-threatening. She tells me they are starting aggressive antibiotic treatment, and I need to rest and let my body fight this. I nod because I do not have the energy to do anything else. James shows up at his usual time carrying coffee and pastries, and he stops dead in the doorway when he sees me. All the color drains from his face. He sets everything down on the chair and comes to my bedside and takes my hand carefully, like he is afraid I might break. He asks what happened and his voice cracks on the last word. I try to explain about the fever and the infection, but I am so tired that the words come out wrong. A nurse comes in to check my vitals and tells James what is going on, and I watch him process the information. He looks terrified. He stays all day sitting in his chair holding my hand and watching the monitors like he can will them to show better numbers. When visiting hours end at 8, he does not move. A nurse comes in and tells him he needs to leave and he says no, just flat out refuses. She looks at him for a second and then at me, and then she says she will give him 15 more minutes. He stays for 4 hours. Around midnight, I am half asleep from the medication they keep pumping into me, but I can hear him crying. It is quiet crying like he is trying not to wake me, but I can hear it anyway. I force my eyes open and reach for his hand. He grabs it with both of his and holds on like I am the only thing keeping him from falling apart. He tells me through tears that he cannot lose me, that these 2 years have been the hardest of his life, but also the most important because he finally understands what matters. I squeeze his hand because I cannot talk, but I want him to know I hear him. I want him to know I feel the same way. The infection takes 5 days to clear. 5 days of aggressive antibiotics and constant monitoring and feeling like my body is trying to destroy itself from the inside. James is there every single day. Sometimes he holds my hand in silence. Sometimes he reads to me when I am too tired to talk. Sometimes he just sits and watches me sleep like he is afraid I will disappear if he looks away. Something has shifted between us and we both feel it. This new awareness that we are more than friends, but neither of us knows how to name it yet. On the 6th day, I wake up feeling almost human again. My fever is gone and the doctors say the infection is under control. I can sit up without feeling like I might pass out. James brings me real food from outside the hospital and we eat together, and it feels normal for the first time in days. Amanda comes to visit that afternoon. She walks in and takes one look at James and me sitting close together working on a puzzle, and she stops. She watches us for a minute, and then after James leaves to get coffee, she sits on my bed and tells me bluntly that I am being an idiot if I do not tell him how I feel. I try to play dumb, but she is not having it. She says she has watched us together for 2 years and we have been in love the whole time. We just needed to figure it out for ourselves. She says James looks at me like I am his whole world, and I look at him the same way, and we are the only two people who cannot see it. I want to argue, but I cannot because she is right. That weekend, James mentions casually that he is going out with Khalid. He says it like it is no big deal, but my stomach drops. I spend the entire evening anxious and miserable. I check my phone every 5 minutes, even though I know he will not text while he is on a date. I try to watch TV, but I cannot focus. I try to read, but the words blur together. All I can think about is James sitting across from Khalid at some restaurant laughing and talking and maybe holding hands. The thought makes me feel sick. Around 9, my phone buzzes and it is James asking if he can come by even though visiting hours are almost over. I text back yes immediately. He shows up 20 minutes later looking tired and sits down heavily in his usual chair. I ask how it went and try to sound casual. He says Khalid is nice, but all James could think about the whole time was that he would rather be here with me. My heart starts racing. I take a shaky breath and tell him I have been thinking a lot about us lately. About how what I feel for him is different from friendship and I do not know what to call it, but I know it matters. He goes very still. He asks me what I mean exactly, and I can see hope and fear fighting in his expression as he waits for me to find the right words. I tell him I think I might be in love with him, and I do not understand it, because I have never felt this way about a man before, but I cannot deny it anymore. He stares at me for a long moment and then he stands up and leaves, just walks out of my room without saying anything. I lie there in shock. The next day, James does not show up for his visit. I text him asking if he is okay and get no response. I text again an hour later and still nothing. I spend the whole day convinced I ruined everything. That my confession made him uncomfortable and now I have lost my best friend by wanting more than he could give me. I cannot eat. I cannot sleep. I just lie there staring at the ceiling thinking about how stupid I was to say anything. The nurses ask if I am okay, and I lie and say I am fine. My mom calls and I let it go to voicemail because I cannot talk to anyone right now. By the time the sun goes down, I am spiraling. James appears the following morning looking like he did not sleep. His hair is messy and he has dark circles under his eyes, and his clothes look like he slept in them. Before I can apologize, he sits on the edge of my bed and takes both my hands. He tells me he stayed away because he needed to be sure about what he wanted to say. He says he has been in love with me since we were teenagers, but he thought he lost his chance when I came out. He says these 2 years watching me fight cancer have been torture because he wanted to be more than my friend, but he would never pressure me when I was vulnerable. He says he left because he was overwhelmed and scared and he needed time to think. But he is here now and he is sure. We talk for 3 hours about everything. About my identity and his feelings, and what it means that I am attracted to him when I have only ever been attracted to women before. I tell him I do not have all the answers, but I know that what I feel for him is real and deep and romantic. He says labels matter less to him than the fact that we have loved each other our whole lives, and maybe we are finally ready to do something about it. He asks if I am sure this is what I want, and I say yes without hesitation. He leans in slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. When he kisses me, it feels completely different from those awkward attempts in high school. This kiss is gentle and certain and full of 2 years of longing. When we finally break apart, I am crying because it feels right in a way I never expected, like coming home to a person instead of a place. He wipes my tears away with his thumb and smiles that goofy smile I have always loved, and tells me he has been waiting his whole life for this moment. 3 weeks go by in a blur of tests and scans and more tests. James is there for every single one, sitting in the waiting room while they run my blood work, or holding my hand through the CT scan, when the machine makes those weird clicking sounds that still freak me out. On a Tuesday morning, Dr. Childress walks into my room with a smile I have not seen before. She sits down and tells me my scans are clear enough that we can start planning for discharge. The words take a second to sink in. I need regular monitoring, but I am officially in remission. James jumps up from his chair and grabs my hands and we both start crying. Happy tears this time instead of scared ones. The hospital social worker comes in an hour later with a stack of papers about outpatient care and support services I will need as I transition back to normal life. She talks about therapy and support groups and regular checkups, and I nod along, but mostly I just keep looking at James, who has not stopped smiling since Dr. Childress left the room. Coming home to the apartment James helped me find near his place 2 weeks later is overwhelming in the best way. It is small and the carpet is kind of ugly, but it has big windows that let in actual sunlight and a kitchen where I can cook my own meals. The first week I spend most of my time just enjoying simple things. Making scrambled eggs without a nurse checking my vitals. Taking a shower that lasts longer than 5 minutes. Sleeping in a real bed with sheets I picked out myself instead of hospital blankets that smell like bleach. James comes over every single day still, but now we watch movies on my couch instead of in a hospital room. We order takeout and eat it at my tiny kitchen table, and he helps me hang up pictures on the walls. Slowly, we figure out how to be together as a couple outside the crisis that brought us here. It feels strange at first because we spent 2 years in a place where everything was about survival, and now we have to learn how to just exist together without that pressure. 2 months after remission, James invites me to a casual dinner with some of his friends at this Italian place downtown. I am nervous because I have not been around groups of people in so long, and I worry about how to explain us. When we get there, his coworker from the date shows up, and I tense, but he is actually really nice and does not make it weird. Someone at the table asks how James and I got together, and I freeze for a second. Then I just start talking. I tell them the whole story without shame. About growing up together and my coming out and the cancer and falling in love with my best friend during the worst time of my life. I explain that I identify as a lesbian, but I fell in love with him anyway. James squeezes my hand under the table while I talk about how love is more complicated and beautiful than any label can capture. His friends listen and nod, and one of them says, "That is the most romantic thing she has ever heard." On the drive home, James tells me he is proud of me for being honest, and I realize I am proud of myself too. 6 months into remission, I am stronger and healthier than I have been in years. I go to support groups twice a week where I meet other people who understand what it is like to survive cancer in your 20s. I see a therapist who helps me work through the trauma of thinking I might die before 30. I go to regular checkups where Dr. Childress tells me my numbers look good, and I should keep doing whatever I am doing. James and I build a life together that feels both brand new and like it was always meant to be. We talk about the future carefully because we both know my health will need monitoring for years, and relationships take work outside of crisis mode. Some days are hard when I get scared about the cancer coming back, or when we argue about stupid things like whose turn it is to do dishes. But when he pulls me close at night and tells me he is exactly where he wants to be, I believe him completely. We already survived the worst together and chose each other anyway.